Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Brewed for Business, the traveling podcast where I interview local business owners in local coffee shops, and we get to know about them, where they're from, and what they do, and how you can do business with them. Hopefully, this particular coffee shop, you are going to be able to hear us, because there's a lot of background noise and new microphones, so hopefully these work out great. But we are today at the Muse Coffee Shop in Loveland, and it's really cool. So it's owned by a husband and wife team. They do the coffee shop, which is really cute. It's like an old house converted to a coffee shop, and in the back they have like their sculpture workshop, and they make sculptures. Isn't that beautiful? It's really heavy too, and they make these sculptures in their workshop, and you can sell them, and then they're around the garden and stuff. It's really cool. So if you've not been here, definitely check it out. And I'm excited to introduce you guys to today's guest, Dev McMillan from Barnhouse Pet Sitting. And I can't wait to get into it. I have been surrounded by animals more so than I've ever been in my life in the last 2 months. So this will be really exciting to get into. So before anything further here, let's cheers to a great episode. And this place has delicious coffee as well. Although, I'm not hard to please. It's like good coffee. It's kind of in a lot of places. I've yet been to a coffee shop that has not been good. So, Deb, where are you originally from? Are you from the Colorado area?
I am. I was born in Denver and then raised in Thornton. And then in 2018, we moved over to the Longmont Firestone area. And so I've been part of more so Longmont mostly. Firestone's cute, but it's got a really tiny kind of feel. So I usually end up in Longmont or Loveland or northern Colorado mostly.
Nice. And what was the name of the town you said? The small town?
Firestone.
Okay. So does it have like kind of an old, like historic, like downtown, like a little main street, like a block or two, or does it not have a whole lot of?
So it's kind of funny. So Firestone has so there's like the Firestone City, and then like a mile away from it is Frederick, and then a mile away from that is Decano. And so if you were to find like a main street, you'd have to drive to Frederick.
Okay.
And then in Frederick, they have like all their little like hair shops. Not a ton of coffee, actually. We get mostly coffee trucks, or you have to drive over to like Seven Brew or something like that. So there's not a ton of like
place to sit.
Yeah.
Enjoy coffee.
So you mostly go to Longmont or northern Colorado, or a little bit south to like Thornton if you want to go to like smaller feel stuff. But even then, those are more busier cities.
So what made you move from the Denver area?
So it was when I was in high school. My parents had decided that Thornton had gotten to be a little too busy, and so they wanted us to have more of a calmer setting to live in. And so they decided that in my senior year of high school, we would move a little bit north to Firestone, and we've just kind of been there ever since. And I'm grateful that they made that decision, because I still drive through Thornton sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, it's gotten so much busier.
Too many people.
Too many people, lots of changes, things that, like pools that I grew up going to don't exist anymore. So it's very different now.
Everything's being like built out commercially and all that.
Built out commercially, things are getting taken over by other corporations. Old family food shops that were present, I think now are like spots for insurance companies, that kind of thing. So it definitely lost its small feel. So Firestone was supposed to be that, but now Firestone is getting even more busier, so more touristy, which is really important for Colorado's commerce for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful to see those kind of changes, right? Like, because you see the evolution, and it's great, and for economics, obviously, like, it's fantastic. It's great for business, all the things. But there is kind of like that grief of, the things that are being replaced, like the local shops and like the, mom and pop like owned restaurants and stores and coffee houses and things like that, And so there is like, part of like that sadness of like, change kind of replaces those.
Absolutely. And COVID bulldozed through a lot of the smaller businesses, especially in the Frederick area too. So there are lots of people that I've met with, especially in our local chamber of commerce, that are just now rebuilding their businesses after they lost it during COVID. And it's taken them this long to be able to build back what they had. And I think now is also a great time to do it too.
For sure. Are you pretty active with the chamber?
I am. I try to, of course, when I'm not being a nurse at a trauma center, I'm actually.
So multiple things going.
I have like the jack of all trades happening for me. I'm a business owner. I'm an oncology nurse, and then I do all these extra things on the side. So I guess I just kind of like to hop and have variety in my life. But
I like it. Yeah. I used to watch movies like growing up, and there was always like I'm a big rom-com fan. And there would always be like the girl who was like the dog walker and the, personal assistant and this, and she had like 10 different jobs, like 10 different like part-time jobs. And I always liked that. Like people used to ask me like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know that I want to be like set into like one thing forever, like the rest of my life to continue to do one thing. I'm like, I like the variety, and marketing, funny enough, like tends to give me that because I work with different types of people. So it's different information, different stories, different people all the time. Like, and I love that.
Marketing has definitely earned my respect after trying to like advertise and market for Barnhouse. I'm like, I see why it has its own field.
Yeah, right? It's a full-time job.
It is.
It really
definitely is.
So how did you get into, what did you do first? Nursing? Is that what you got into?
Actually, before that, I was an EMT at a ketamine clinic. Okay. And so I worked with people who had mental health disorders that they had maybe sought other treatment for, and then ketamine was kind of their last line of hope. And then I would see people get better. Sometimes people didn't, but I would see a majority of the time people get better and kind of get their lives back, and that was rewarding for me. So I was an EMT helping start IVs and working closely with the psychiatrist up until I think they were starting to get busier and branched out and required somebody more that needed higher education, because EMTs, as many people will argue, EMTs are treated like we are bottom of the barrel in healthcare. And so
even though you're like a first responder.
Even though we're first responders. I think literally my starting wage at my first EMT job was $11.45 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So when I say that's how we're treated, that's how we're treated.
For $11.
Exactly. But that was 2018, so I would hope it's better now. But that's where I started. I wanted to work with people. And then I also had this passion for animals, but I was like, okay, well, what's going to be the most supportive for me at the time? And so I went down the path of EMT, did that for 8 years, worked in different ketamine clinics. And then finally I said, I need to increase my education. I need to be able to make like a living wage, but I still wanted to do something medical. So then I went into nursing, and I truly am glad that I made that decision. But I also wanted something in the long run that was going to pour back into my cup, because the roles that I've given myself are caregiver roles. I've taken care of my family. I'm a nurse, so naturally caregiver aspect. I was an EMT for a while, so I love being able to provide. And so I was like, I feel like I've given too much of myself to these other things. EMT, nurse, getting spread in different directions. So I was like, what makes me feel better? And at the end of the day, that for me is animals.
Yeah, helping those that can't help themselves.
Absolutely. Getting like the snuggles back.
Yeah.
When you
it's
find
the best therapy.
It is. Animals just really like make my heart full. Even though, yes, it's like another job, it's another caregiving task. But the thing with animals is they don't expect anything in return except for love and compassion and care.
Yeah.
Humans, and I hate to say it, we will ask and ask and ask and take, even sometimes when we're not even aware of it. And animals just kind of give me a nice breathing room and a break from it.
Yeah.
So that's how I fell into animals. And I really wasn't expecting to keep on pet sitting. I thought I would do this through nursing school and then end it. And then I realized that I had a knack for it. I volunteered at a little charity organization called Horses Make Miracles.
Yeah.
So I got to working with horses, llamas, and then goats later on.
And llamas?
And llamas.
Okay.
And alpacas.
Yeah.
I really would love to work with donkeys and cows, but that's probably a mission for later. But I got used to working with these bigger animals that provided so much to me emotionally in return. So I decided that there's more to being a caregiver than just showing up and feeding Fluffy and walking them. You build a relationship with not just the humans, but with these pets. And that is why I have Barnhouse.
I love that. So did you grow up around a lot of animals?
I did. I had a 14-year-old border collie that passed in 2016. But prior to that was actually my babysitter when I was like super little. Like border collies are herding dogs. And so he would keep me in the living room while my mom cooked dinner. And if I tried to leave, crawl out, he would grab my diaper and pull me back.
Love it.
And he also put me and my brothers to bed. So like having like a dog be your babysitter was actually really funny, but it worked out for us. And
talk about growing up with like such that beautiful relationship.
It is. It's beautiful. And I still have we have a cat named Cisco currently that is 20 years old. We got him when I was 7 years old, like starting second grade. And he's still going strong.
That's awesome.
We have longevity for pets in our house. I've had bearded dragons, we've had turtles, we've had snakes. And then alongside dogs and cats, I eventually had this curiosity for horses. So I was able to do a session of horseback riding when I was younger.
We live in a great area for that.
We do.
You see horse ranches everywhere.
You can't drive down I-25 without seeing like 6 or 8 ranches,
Right? That's one of the things my friend, when she invited me to come, she was like, hey, I have this property. She's like, I have 2 horses. She's like, come visit, come check it out. And I was like, absolutely, say no more. And then she has since gotten 4 donkeys too. So there's 4 donkeys and 2 horses, and they're all rescue animals, right? And so they're not rideable. They're literally just like happy pasture dogs. Like they're just the happiest animals, and they get love, and they get food, and they get freedom, and it's beautiful to see.
Horses are like these big, giant, 1,000-something pound dogs. They are so loving. And I always find it interesting when people are like, oh, I'm afraid of horses, I'm going to get kicked. And it's like anybody that's been around horses knows that, for one, horses don't just kick to kick. If they do, there's something wrong on a molecular level.
And just don't stand back there.
Yeah, just don't stand back there. Walk around them. Like, if you know how to be around them, you wouldn't be as afraid of them.
Yeah.
And they're used for PTSD and more equine therapies now. I think I've seen plenty of therapists now go and get certified to provide equine therapy for PTSD and people with schizophrenia. So definitely animals are the one consistent thing in life that they provide, and they stay providing no matter what. You could be having the worst day and they won't think anything less of you.
Exactly. Well, you said you're an oncology nurse.
Yes.
So do you see a lot of animals come in for, I don't know what it's called, but like the treatment, not the treatments, but they come in to visit, patients and stuff in the hospital.
Oh, are you talking about it's like animal therapy? People
Yes.
bring in their dogs and they're super well trained. Yeah. So where I work at, I have not seen that, but I do know that there are plenty of hospitals, specifically a hospital like Lutheran, where I did my nursing capstone. They had a program where they would allow security to bring up their dogs to provide some form of therapy if they had an agitated patient. If security came up, it always made the patients feel less threatened when there was a dog involved. And then, and that was of course late at night. And then they also had another program where people could bring their therapy dogs. And at one point I was going to get one of my dogs trained to be a therapy dog as well. Being in the hospital is really unfortunate. You see a lot of really devastating things. And so it gives back to nurses, to doctors. I think when they see an animal come through, it's like, oh, I am just in reality. Yeah. I'm not back at my hard case that I was at in my head from yesterday or a week ago or a month ago.
Yeah.
So
they can enjoy some snuggles.
They can enjoy some snuggles, some kisses. And then I know that Good Samaritan Hospital also has therapy dogs. Interestingly, there is an organization out there that will come to hospitals and they will ask for if they can introduce their miniature ponies to patients. So they'll bring their mini ponies into these hospital rooms. And it's so sweet. I had a patient a long time ago that was injured by a horse, and the family was like, look, dogs aren't going to do it for him. We know what he was injured by, but we think he would love to see a horse. And they, sure enough, the hospital said yes. Horse came through and made everybody laugh by pooping on the floor, but it brought something lighter to the situation.
Yeah. Potty training horses and donkeys, not so easy.
No. You could just freshly clean a stall and then they'll go in there and you're like, really?
Immediately.
Really?
They're very cat-like in that essence.
They are.
You know, where like they kind of do their own thing, and like, cause even my cat, like, yeah, as soon as anything is clean, she like immediately like, oh, nice and fresh, like perfect timing. And I'm like, I just got it. But yeah, the horses.
I just got there.
Yeah, horses are totally the same, because I did the same. Like, I'll help my friend when like, you know, mucking out the stalls, and as soon as like they're clear, like one of them will come in and leave a present. It's lovely.
It's awesome. It's a wonderful smelling present. Nothing like it being fresh. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's good times. So you've always loved animals, and you obviously like grew up with them. So at what point did you start watching animals for people? Like obviously like on the side, because you were doing the EMT.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to when I was let go from one of the ketamine jobs that I was at that had been expanding and needed somebody else in. And that was definitely like a devastating blow to my ego, because I remember working that job with so much heart and dedication and building relationships with the patients that it definitely dealt a very heavy blow. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do to kind of, I guess, get myself, you know, back into like this ego recovery where I feel like I can be confident again. Because it is confidence shattering when you're let go from a job that, you know, you were doing so well.
Yeah. And that you loved and you were planning on staying for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. And so while I was unemployed, I was like, what is going to make me feel better? Like, what have I done? So I thought about volunteering at Horses Make Miracles, because at the time that this all happened, I had to end my volunteership so I could put on more hours at the job I was let go from. And when I was there, in my mind thinking about it, I was like, animals have never made me feel insignificant. Never. I've never felt insignificant. And so I had seen on Nextdoor, of all places, like people advertising themselves to watch pets. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, you know, gee, I really don't do this professionally. You know, being a dog mom myself, I don't trust apps like Rover. I just don't think I could trust leaving my pet with just anybody.
Yeah.
And then you see now, currently, like people on Rover being very neglectful of pets. And what really sucks is there are wonderful Rover sitters that I had met because I started on Rover. That's kind of where most people who do pet sitting start. And then you later realize how unreliable that platform can be, because you meet clients and they have this bad predisposition of you because the last person that was there before you didn't leave it in such a good way. So now there's a bias. And so me having worked in mental health, I was like, how do I break the bias? How do I get through to get people to trust me while I'm unemployed, but also having a really good track record working in health? How do I make myself stand out? And so my first ever client that I still have met with me, and she has I think, 50 something chickens. She had at the time 2 llamas. Now she has 1, and then she has 2 horses alongside 3 dogs and then 3 barn cats. And that was
a lot of animals to handle. Yeah.
A lot of animals, and still to this day, the easiest client to ever provide care for.
Right.
And so I went and I met with her, and this was kind of my trial run to tell me that I can do this. And I remember feeling very attentive to the chickens. I remember she put her rooster away because he was really aggressive. If you don't know anything about roosters, they can be jerks. And so I was trying to be attentive to this rooster, and then staring down this rooster that was very much why are you here? I don't want you around my hens.
I don't need a babysitter.
I got it under control, lady. And finding the confidence to care for even pets that seemed scary was a confidence builder to me. And so I stuck with pet sitting because it built my confidence and it didn't make me feel insignificant. And I think when you have those 2 things together, you can do a good job and you can build trust with clients, because at the end of the day, people want trust and consistency and to know that you're going to love on your pets like you would your own. And there's a big difference. It's their babies. And there is a big difference between saying that you'll do it versus showing it. And the way that I showed it with my clients is that, like, hey, can I let them cuddle with me at night? Are they allowed on beds? And, I would send them daily pictures. I mean, oh my God, I was kind of crazy. I would even like look at their poop and be like, okay, are we digesting? Or
do we need to call the vet?
Do we need to call the vet? What is this? And then I would go out of my way to get pup cups and then started making my own dog treats. So like, when you love animals and you can demonstrate it, you can do this. But not if you're just looking to make easy, fast cash, because you need to make sure that you're building trust. And that is why I turned to pet sitting, is I can build trust with people. The things that I do are not insignificant, and I can demonstrate that I will love and care for your pets like they are mine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so then at what point did you go from being Rover to launching, Barnhouse Pet Sitting?
Yeah, so I was trying to, so as quickly as I jumped into Rover, I was also trying to quickly back out of it, because at that point I was no longer getting service requests on Rover because it is an oversaturated business. And so the pet care industry is just very saturated. And so you have to try really hard to make yourself stand out. One of the things that I personally noticed about Northern Colorado is that like once a week, even now, you still see people advertising their services from Rover or WAG or whatever. And like I said, there's great sitters on there. I'm sure they exist, but it only takes a few bad apples to kind of ruin it for everybody else. And so when I saw articles coming out at that time, like even then, articles about a Rover sitter neglecting someone's pet while they were being boarded, I was like, you know what? I don't want my name attached to this platform. I don't care that there are good sitters on there. I value pets, and if it means I got to separate my name from this platform, I will.
Yeah.
So I did. And I decided to just be with my boyfriend. It was me and him at the time. I still have him. He's just my co-founder now for Barnhouse, if anyone's wondering. But him and I were talking about it, and we said, hey, like, why is it every time we get a new client, the first thing they say is, well, I had a Rover sitter and it was a really bad experience. Now I'm just looking for friends and family to recommend somebody to me because I feel like that's the only way I'll find someone trustworthy. Right. And at the time, we were really just building up our clientele by word of mouth. I had stopped getting service requests through Rover. And so I was kind of in the back of my mind. Occasionally I'd check it, but I really didn't get any requests on there. And so I was caring for coworkers' pets. I was caring for neighbors, and then word of mouth would spread, and people would get my number and they would message me through there. So at that point, I had already kind of tried separating myself, but I would still throw out like my Rover link and have like this really weird feeling of guilt about it, because I was like, why am I advertising myself on a platform that I personally don't believe in? Yeah. Because I thought it was the only way I could advertise myself. I didn't think it through at the time.
Of like how else to get the leads.
How else can I get the leads? How do I separate myself? And then finally it was a busy holiday season. And I was thinking, I'm like, it's the holidays. I should be getting more requests. Like, I don't understand why I'm not. And then finally I said, you know what? I'm going to delete myself off of Rover. And then I'm just going to form my own business. So I kind of did a random jump. And this was in my one and only year of nursing school, because I did an accelerated program. So I had just started my nursing school program. And my co-founder and we were driving in the car, me and my spouse. And I said, we got to separate ourselves. I think that's why we're not getting business, is because we have our names attached to this. And he said, well, let's think through some names. So I'm throwing out these names. And I'm looking online at like the hub where you can tell if a name has been taken by a business or not. And of course, all the names that I thought were unique were suddenly not so unique anymore.
And you realize how many people like think like you sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, I'm not creative at all. And then my boyfriend said, look, you've cared for horses, you've cared for farm animals. Not everybody has that experience.
True.
And so I said, well, how do I tell people that I also do house sitting? Like, they don't have to have pets for me to come by and water their plants. Like, how do we form this? And he just, immediately said, why don't we call it Barnhouse? Like, we have so many pets at home, and we do. Like, at home, I have 2 Euromastix lizards. He has a conure. I have my 2 dogs. My mom owns a rat, and she's got her own set of chickens in the backyard. I mean, we have so many animals in a different place to put our love that we were just like, well, now we need to figure out what to call ourselves. So he came up with the name, and it just kind of rang really clear for me. So then
it encompasses everything.
It does. And so then I went from there and was like, got to get insurance. I got to get professional membership through Pet Sitters International. I need to make sure that I'm Better Business Bureau accredited, things that I really wanted to let people know when they go to our website.
That you were
this is the foundation. Yeah. This is the groundwork for laying the trust. We don't expect trust right away. We know that we're strangers coming into a private space, but we do know that we can build that relationship. And what better way to build it than to say, hey, these are the steps that we have taken to make ourselves stand out, and to tell you that we will make it our mission to gain your trust and to care for your pets, because it's an honor to care for people's pets. It really is.
Yes. I'm sure they feel the same too, like knowing someone like you cares as much about their animals than they do.
Oh my God. It's crazy. And it's always kind of like an ego boost a little bit when we get that text from a client that's like, my dog is still looking for you. And I'm like, oh really? They are? Okay. It's because I gave them a pup cup, huh? So,
right. And now they associate you with treats, and that's totally fine.
It's so funny. I'm even caring for a client right now whose husky laid on the bed after I left and was just sad. And I'm like, okay, tell them it's okay. They can, they are your dogs again.
Right. It's just temporary.
I was there for a few nights. It'll be okay. But it is, and it's also really comforting when we're able to win over anxious pets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, our anxious owners. And then there's nothing more rewarding than to get that scared animal that's like, hey, you're not mom, why are you here?
Yeah.
And then in the next hour, you're doing belly rubs, you're finally able to get a harness on them for walks. And then you get that text from the owner that says, oh my God, they never want to go on walks and I'm not there. Thank you. It makes you feel like you're making a difference, even though it's probably not the world's most astronomical difference, but it's a difference for you.
Did you ever think that your work in the mental health space would have helped you so much in the pet sitting space?
Absolutely. Working in mental health, I will admit, has helped me talk through some of our have these hard conversations with some of our most difficult clients and I think this is the side of pet sitting nobody wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And there are households that exist where we hear several times over that the dog has separation anxiety or the dog has these specific fears. And I'm like, okay, it adds. And, my spouse and I beforehand were told about a dog that was afraid of cotton balls. And I'm like,
cotton balls?
Cotton balls.
Okay.
And I'm like, why are we afraid of cotton balls? It was so interesting. And so I'm like, okay, well, there's dog fears. And then we get told all this information about this dog and how they might be on their worst behavior. And then, sure enough, I get there, or one of my sitters like Stevie or Rachel or Sean and Emma will arrive and the dog is perfectly fine.
So
the
then
dog
you look
is okay.
okay, so it's, the anxiety that the owner is having.
Yes. And I think that has been a really big issue, especially for Barnhouse recently, is we have clients that have really strong anxiety about their pets. And I get it. I'm a dog mom. I have probably changed my dog's diets far too many times because I'm like,
new research comes out or new information. Yeah.
Research comes out, you see all these, what is it, the farmer's dog or Ollie, and you're like, oh my God, longevity, I'm going to keep you alive forever.
Right.
I can sometimes be a little insane myself when I start messing with their diet or implementing walks or changing their routine. But then I also have to admit to myself that when I start doing all these changes to my dogs, and even though I might think it's okay because it's making my anxiety feel better, it could actually be causing them harm in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of pet owners don't want to admit, is when they start making a bunch of changes, especially in their own lives, if their work schedule changes and then they start to get anxious. Well, pets are very emotional creatures. It doesn't matter if it's a horse or a snake or a dog or a cat.
They're very structure driven.
They're very structure driven, very routine driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've always told owners that, please don't change their routine within a certain amount of time of us getting there, because if you change it, they might feel anxious because it's well, that's not what mom did.
Right.
This isn't our routine. But having the ability, working in mental health has given me the ability to talk to owners and have honest, deep conversations with them. like, hey, these are some things I noticed. Your dog started resource guarding. They didn't do that before. Can I ask you what might have changed? And then it'll be something insane that I didn't even think about. Like, oh yeah, we took them to the vet last week. Totally forgot to tell you about that. It wasn't a great experience. And so being able to communicate changes in an animal to the owner, even if the owner has a difficult personality, is an important skill to have. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a difficult owner or a difficult pet, or what your own opinion is. You're both on the same page that the animal at hand needs to get the same consistent care. And it's about communication. And going back to what I had mentioned about pets that are totally fine, but the owner is the most anxious. We find that to be a common issue with folks that claim that their dog has separation anxiety. And maybe their dog does, but then when we get there and the dog is totally fine, the dog ignored us for the whole 12 hours we slept overnight, right?
Yeah.
Like, dog was downstairs, they came up, told us when they wanted breakfast, we got cuddles and pets in, and then I'm like, where's this anxiety the owner was describing?
Right.
But then we start getting messages. How's Fluffy doing? Did everything go okay? Is there anything I can do? And I'm like, okay, here's the connection.
Yeah.
It's your dog doesn't have separation anxiety. The owner has separation anxiety from the dog. And so when we have personalities that come through like that, it lets me and my sitters know, okay, we just need to increase the amount of updates that we give. We just need to maybe record a video instead of a picture.
Right.
It gives us cues into how we can make the owner feel like they can breathe some fresh air while they're on vacation. The last thing I want is an owner to go away on vacation and then they're not on vacation because mentally they're at home worrying about the dog.
Right.
Like, that's not the point of being on vacation. Let me connect with you. And sometimes it does mean that I call these owners and I say, hey, what is going to make you comfortable? What is going to make you feel like you can breathe again?
Right.
And they say, well, I've never been asked that. And I say, well, we're going to have the conversation. So what do we need to do? Do you want me to send you 3 updates a day instead of 1? Do you want videos instead of pictures? What would make this better?
Do you ask that now ahead of time, like when you first meet with someone?
I do. One of the questions, because I have a client questionnaire, so as much as clients are screening for the pet sitter, I'm actually screening our clients because I do believe in having good relationships with people. And sometimes there are personalities that we just can't work with.
Yeah.
And it's
no fault to them or you. It's just there's alignment. Yeah,
we just have to be in alignment, and it's no one's fault, Like, I use the analogy that you can be the sweetest peach on the tree, and it will not matter to somebody who does not like peaches.
Right.
Sometimes there's just a wall there, and that's okay. It's not going to be perfect.
I feel the same. On my website, I actually have like a section that says, if you like to talk about yourself, where you're from, like, where you come from, what you love, things like that, like, great, then we're going to be a good match. And if you don't like that, like, that's okay. There are other marketing companies out there, but I am also very relationship driven. And so, like, I want to make sure that, like, we have that open communication and that we're both aligned and we just get along, right? And again, it's nothing against anyone that has a different personality. It's just not how I do business.
Of course.
So you're going to, like, hate conversations with me if all I'm doing is asking about your weekend and your family and your pets and all the things, and all you want to do is get straight to business. That's just not, not me. It wouldn't work well.
Building connection matters a lot to not just me, but to my sitters as well, because when I started asking clients through this questionnaire, when we start screening, for aggression, because we don't accept aggressive pets or reactive pets, but in this questionnaire at the very end, I always ask, have you had a pet sitter before? And was your experience positive or negative? And if they tell me it was positive, usually when I go and do the in-person meet and greet, I always ask them, like, hey, on your questionnaire, you said you had a positive experience with your last sitter. Can you tell me some of the things that they did?
Yeah, like what you liked, what you didn't like.
Yeah, usually I'll ask them, like, what did they do that you really liked? Or like, hey, I know you really liked your last pet sitter, but sometimes service isn't always perfect. So what were some things that they might have done that you felt like maybe fell on deaf ears, or maybe you came back and something wasn't right? And then most of the time owners are like, no, there was nothing wrong. And I'm like, great, awesome. Or they tell me more in detail, like, oh, they would send me like 4 pictures a day. Great. We all have phones.
Noted.
Yeah, we all have phones. We can all take pictures.
Yeah.
And then it also gives me an opportunity to also figure out if the pet sitter was really the problem or if the owner might have been instigating something. And then that also lets me know, hey, what boundaries do we need to have? Because I do have boundaries with my sitters and my clients. A big one that we have is we do not share personal cell numbers. And the only time that personal phone numbers get shared is if there's an emergency and the pet sitter calls you. And a lot of owners feel like they need to have the pet sitter's phone number. Well, not entirely, actually.
You don't need to be calling them every 5 minutes.
Yeah, we don't need to be calling every 5 minutes. We once had a pet owner call at 2 a.m. And woke the pet sitter up, and it was over something like about the dog's water bowl in the picture. Just really odd things like that. So we do have to have boundaries.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the phone number thing, we have a software that we use called Pet Pocketbook. And when clients download the app, it works exactly like texting. You get a notification from the sitter, you can communicate directly with the sitter, talk to them, and see how things are going. And as long as you have a line of communication with your sitter, there really is no reason to need a phone number.
Yeah.
Beforehand, we used to allow phone number sharing, but then that 2 a.m. phone call really whipped that out of it. So we've done that before, and then we've also talked about setting up private Google phone numbers for sitters, so that way they feel like when they leave a job, the job is done and they can go home and be with their families.
That's awesome. What is the most unique animal that you have ever sat for, or that your team has sat for?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, for me personally, I would say the most unique animal I've ever cared for has to be an alpaca.
Okay.
I didn't know alpacas were like a thing in Colorado. When I hear alpaca, I think Machu Picchu. I don't think we're even acclimated to have alpacas here. I didn't know that was a thing.
Somehow they are here, and there's a lot of them.
They are. I'm like, oh my God, it's like this whole underground world that exists. I didn't even notice it. And there was like a pregnant alpaca that was there. And honestly, alpacas are still some of the easiest animals I've ever cared for. They have just really odd poop to clean up because it's like pebbles, it's not like big enough that you can like toss it. So, but otherwise, I think alpacas are the most unique because they're kind of like the saying, you can look, but you can't touch. That's their personality. You can look at them, you can admire them, you can stand 6 feet within them, but if they see that you want to touch them, they're like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Don't touch me.
Right.
And it's so hard because their fur is why people have them. They shear them and they sell their fur.
So you just want to pet them.
You just want to pet them, like see their little afros,
right,
and just
they
love
want
on them.
To do with it.
And they're like, absolutely not. Don't touch me. I'm beautiful enough.
Don't need you to interfere at all.
Do not interfere.
That's awesome. And so, is there any animals that your company does not handle?
Behavioral wise, we don't handle aggressive pets, and that's across any sort of animal. If your horse is a constant kicker, we don't take care of it.
Safety of your people.
Safety, yeah. I'm not going to have anybody end up in the hospital over an unsafe pet and lack of training. That's just not going to be part of it. But dogs with bite histories, and even then, I need to understand what happened, because sometimes it's as dumb as somebody took a ball from their mouth.
Right.
Well, duh, you don't take things out of an animal's mouth. You're going to get bit, right? But if there's a dog that's had a consistent bite history of just jumping up and biting for no reason, we don't accept those kinds of pets. If there's any food resource guarding that has not been addressed, we do not accept it unless there's a very specific routine.
Right. Yeah. If they let you know, to separate or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at least if they let you know up front, how do you gauge that? So when you meet the people, do you always go to the first greeting so that you get to see the animal, you get to see the space, you get to feel out the owners to decide whether you guys want to bring them on as a client?
So that's where the client questionnaire comes in. My client questionnaire is very detailed. A lot of times people don't want to complete it, and if they don't complete it, then that kind of lets me know, okay, then we're not a good fit if you don't complete it. The other side of that is a lot of times, because I have owners describe their pet's behaviors. I do not list yes or no questions. I want to know how your pet reacts. Because if they get a little snappy over someone wearing a hat, that's not enough for me to say, hey, we're not going to accept you. But if your pet has a consistent history of just kind of like a loaded gun, popping off and biting for no reason, then yeah, we're not going to take care of them.
Right.
But when we go to client homes, the first thing I look for is number one is the litter box clean. Because if the litter box isn't clean, but you have an expectation that we clean it daily, but I can clearly see you don't clean it daily, I mean, I'll still probably clean it for you, but I'm going to do a deep clean on the litter box because pets deserve to have a clean space. So I'll usually kind of gauge like where some of the truth is when we go to meet and greets. And then if it's my personal client, I ask them to show me the feeding routine. And I try to usually schedule feeding routines with meet and greets.
Yeah, so that you can see it in action. That's smart.
Absolutely. So I can see what it looks like. And then if we can't, like if it's at lunchtime or something, and I have the owner like, hey, describe their feeding routine to me. Like, what do you do? And usually the owner will act it out. They'll grab the bowls like they're getting ready to feed them. Like Fluffy eats here, Cheesecake eats over there. And they don't bug each other. And then I'm like, okay. And then usually it gives me the opportunity to look at the dog to see how they're acting. Like, do they jump up while the owner is trying to get food? Do they violate boundaries or do they sit and wait patiently? Do they know their place? You know, do they have a place to sit and then wait for food to be brought to them? That kind of thing is what I look for.
Yeah, and you said violate boundaries, like in what way?
If the owner has the food behind a pantry and they crack the door and all of a sudden the dog is there throwing open the door with their body, it tells me, okay, well, maybe when I come to feed this dog, I'm going to keep them outside while I prep and then I'll bring them in.
Right.
Like things that I can do that would make it easier. And then there is like one species of pet that I personally will never care for, and that is tarantulas. But that does not mean that Barnhouse won't care for them, because right. I have one pet sitter on my team that is like, oh my God, send all the spiders my way. Like, I love spiders and I love snakes and I love all of these exotic creatures. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you.
Like you
can handle the tarantulas. If we get tarantula clients, they're all yours, baby. You don't have to worry about it. But
that's so funny. Yeah, I forget the reptile.
Yes.
Pet owners.
And I mean, they do. And there are some bird clients are some of our most popular because my co-founder is knowledgeable with our aviary friends. So I always send him since that's his niche. And then one of my other sitters is used to dealing with macaws as well. So I never send a pet sitter over to a client's house that doesn't have a knowledge of what they're working with. Like I would never send a pet sitter that deals with reptiles to a farm for horses.
Right.
Like that wouldn't happen. But I try to suit each pet sitter to what their interest is. And if they want to work with horses and farms, any inquiry I get, I send it to them. And of course, within reason. Like, I like to see that you have like a demonstrated history of working with a specific pet, even if it's a tarantula.
Right.
So it can be very inquiring at times, for sure.
How do you find your sitters?
So originally what I did, or what I still actually do, is I create a detailed application on Indeed, and then I just kind of wait for people to apply, and then I ask what I refer to as my weed out questions. So one of the questions I have on there is, please describe signs of when a dog is stressed. And alarmingly, there are dozens of people that I've had to turn down because they don't know how to observe dog body language. And that is the thing. I didn't think it was, because I think we as a society have determined that because you own a dog, you know the warning signs of when they're going to snap.
And yeah, that's not the case.
And that's not the case, because you could have a very well-behaved dog and never see it, right?
Right. Never have been in that situation to have experienced it, but yet.
Never. And so it's important to me that my sitters know, like, what whale eyes are, what lip licking is, that just because a dog is wagging its tail does not mean that they are comfortable with you. They can still bite. Just because they have hair standing up on their hind doesn't always mean that they're angry or aggressive. You know, sometimes they're just playing, and that's a thing. So if they can't answer that question semi-correctly, I don't expect perfection, but I do expect common sense. And if I see that that's not present in that one specific question, I I end the application. I don't even bother reading the rest of it. And then we have a 25-mile radius. So one of the questions I ask is, hey, most of our services are in Longmont, but are you comfortable driving up to a 25-mile radius? And if they say yes, perfect. If they say no, I move on to the next applicant, because I do need
flexibility, someone that can go.
I need someone flexible, and because we do have a big service radius. And then another question that I ask is like, why should Barnhouse families, because that's what I call our clients, we call them Barnhouse families. Why should they feel comfortable having you in their home and caring for their pet? And if I get one sentence answers that say, because I love pets, I move on to the next applicant. Because we know that you love pets. If you didn't love pets, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't be applying.
You wouldn't be applying. Yeah. And so,
ideally, anyway.
Absolutely. And pet sitting is more than just loving somebody's pet. Like, I kind of think that's a given. It's like when somebody asked me why I became a nurse. Well, I like working with people, but that's not a sufficient answer.
Right. Because I like working with people too, but I'm not in healthcare.
Exactly.
Nor would I want to be. Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's one of those things where people are like, oh my God, is that what you do? And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
But so in that question, one great answer I received, and I still think about this answer, and I still have this pet sitter on my team. She's amazing. Her answer was, first of all, I've been pet sitting for this amount of years. I know what it means to build trust with clients. I even had a client that had divorced parents, and I would have to drive in between them to drop them off, which was really funny when I read that, because I was like, really, for like a pet, like I would have thought that like they would be fighting in court, full custody thing, right? But they were splitting like custody with this dog.
Yeah.
And she put that in her answer, and she said, I know what my intentions are. I know how to communicate with families. I've dealt with difficult personalities. I'm a social worker, and I loved what I do, and I know I can prove that, and that's why I think I'd be a good fit. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah,
that is an honest answer. Like, I am sold. And then I met with her, and I was just like taken. She's amazing. One of my best pet sitters for sure. And that answer kind of seals it for me. So body language and being able to justify why you should be in a private space with pets, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And do you give them like any kind of test with an animal before you send them off on a pet sitting, or do you give them maybe like a daytime, not like an overnight pet sitting?
So what I try to do, so if I have an applicant that is brand new to pet sitting, I make them do at least a month of training with me. And that involves us doing meet and greets together, at least 2 drop-ins together. And then if they can demonstrate to me like common sense things without me having to prompt or ask or say, hey, you should do this, then I will try to move them into doing their first overnight. And then I have a few pet sitters on my team that do pet sitting on their own because they're contractors. So they're not completely dedicated to just working for Barnhouse.
Right.
So if they have their own clients, I usually will ask them to give me a referral at the interview so that way I can talk to them. Mm-hmm. And then I have one pet sitter I just hired that has her own kenneling. Like, her husband is a vet tech. They do their own kenneling. And oh my God, that interview was like 90 minutes, and I just enjoyed talking to her. And she offered up information without me having to ask her.
Yeah.
And so my plan with her is I'm going to do a few meet and greets with her and kind of gauge how she does at a few drop-ins. And then once I can see that she can demonstrate competency in what she does, then absolutely I will let her off on her own to do her own overnight. And then I have a few sitters on my team that didn't require that much oversight. They, like in Rachel, the one that I had mentioned about that does social work, she, same deal, gave me all the answers I needed. She provided everything that I needed to know without me needing to ask a question. And with her, I think I didn't need to do any oversight with her because, I'd ask her, hey, what are you going to do when you go to this meet and greet? And she's like, I'm going to ask these questions, and then we'll be fine. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, go for it, because they're contractors, so they don't need as much oversight.
Yeah.
So I can send her off, and she didn't need any oversight from me. And also on Pet Pocketbook, I can see when they're showing up to their sits and when they're not. So as long as I can see some responsibility on that end, that's great. And then I also put everybody through a background check. They have to pass their background check, because I do I do national and in-state, as well as like 7 different county background checks along with sex offender registry. So I put them through all of the background checks, and then, but once they've dedicated competency to me, usually about a month, there's no more oversight for me, and they are free to do their own thing.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you've got some of the sitters that have been with you for a long time, so that's beautiful.
They're
great
awesome.
Relationship with them.
Mostly it is family owned and operated. So I have my mom Stevie, who's my manager, Sean and Emma, my brother and sister-in-law, and then Bree, who is also my sister-in-law. And I still background checked everybody else, and people are like, oh my God, you background checked your mom? And I'm like, it's not because I don't trust her, but like if somebody wanted to ask me, I have it on file to say, hey, no, I did my due diligence. This is who I have.
I love that. No exceptions.
Absolutely. And like Stevie was one that was like, you know, my mom, she was like, hey, I just don't feel comfortable doing meet and greets by myself yet. And so she was one that I worked with for about 9 months. Totally fine, because I want people comfortable. I want people to feel okay going to meet and greets by themselves and to know what they're looking for.
Right, and then they can better represent you in your business because you know they get to feel more comfortable and do things the way that you want them to do as well. What is the range of services that you offer? I don't think we've covered that yet. So you do the drop-ins you mentioned, and obviously like overnight as well.
Absolutely. So we offer several different kinds of services. They're all kind of like in their own little niche. So first and foremost, we do the meet and greet. Meet and greets are always free. That gives both the sitter and the client to meet and go, yeah, things are going to work together. And then maybe the client thought the meet and greet went well, but I hear back from the sitter, and the sitter goes, hey, they're not a candidate for Barnhouse, XYZ went wrong. Then I can say, okay, we'll tell them, we'll move on to the next client. Yeah. Or if client comes back and says, hey, so-and-so was great. How do I get started? What do I do? And then we talk through the paperwork. I send them the link to get signed up, and then we go from there. So meet and greet gets done first, and then after that, we offer what are called pre-trip acclimation visits, and those are visits that allow maybe the anxious pet owner or the anxious pet to meet the sitter again before leaving for a trip.
Nice. So like while the owner's there.
While the owner's there, or maybe the owner is like, hey, I'm going to go to King Soopers. Could you just maybe walk Fluffy around the block and let her know you? And yeah, heck yeah, we'll do what we can in 30 minutes. Right. So and pre-trip acclimation visits are always set before the owner leaves on a trip. And I find that to be useful for dogs that are fearful or they're anxious, and it just kind of gives them a chance to go, oh, I saw you like a week ago. Okay, I'm not afraid of you. I still miss my mom, but like I'm okay with you.
Right. You're not a complete stranger.
You're not a complete stranger. I recognize your perfume, that kind of thing. And then after that, we offer what are called care orientation visits. Not every client needs a care orientation visit, but there's 2 types. The first one is for general homes and apartments. So that is like maybe your dog has an overly complicated feeding routine. Maybe they're on meds. Maybe you have a specific routine that you're like, I need it followed to a T. And that is when the sitter and the owner come together and complete the routine together.
Okay.
And then the second version is for farms. I highly encourage farms to do that because there is a lot of work to be done. And sometimes it helps the farm owners know, like, hey, they're going to follow the instructions I set aside. It gives the sitter to ask questions, maybe something they misunderstood at a meet and greet, that kind of thing. And then after that, we do what are called drop-in visits. We offer 30 minutes and 1 hour for pets, like domesticated pets. And then we have our farm drop-in visits, which basically are like general drop-ins, but they're always tailored for 45 minutes to an hour or more.
And the drop-in visits are for like, either like feeding and walking or something like while the owner's like at work or something. So those are more like the routine, the weekly kind of visits. Yeah.
So like drop-in visits are like, hey, I'm going to be gone for 8 hours. Could you drop in at this time to let them go potty? Maybe feed them. Drop-in visits are more for like literally what they sound like. The sitter comes in, gives them their meds, feeds them, and then goes on their way, scoops the litter box, feeds the fish, that kind of thing. And then the 1 hour is more for like, it's an option that clients can choose if they feel like they want their dog to get more like indoor play time or more yard time with the sitter. We don't do dog walks during drop-ins because we have our own dog walking service with different branched out times. So like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60-minute dog walks. So that's another service we offer. Farm drop-ins are like the sitter drops in long enough to feed everybody, do some minor cleanup, take horses out to pasture, open the doors for goats to get out, make sure all the chickens are accounted for, that kind of thing. And then after that, we offer our overnight services, and I'm tentatively thinking about changing the name to sleepover visits because there's a little bit of confusion there of what they are, but overnight visits are scheduled for 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that is basically for the sitter to come by at night, maybe feed dinner if the owner hasn't already, and then they stay overnight until 7 a.m. the next day, and then they go and they're gone until they come back the next night for an overnight. And the clients that choose those are clients that typically have doggy door access. Or they have a farm and the animals are out all day, so there's not a reason for the pet sitter to be there all day, so they choose like the overnight for dinner and then morning feed.
Yeah.
But they want someone on property.
Night.
Yeah, so those are our overnights. And then we offer what are called discounted midday drop-ins, where the sitter comes back for like 20 to 30 minutes in the middle of the day to kind of check in, make sure everybody's cool, everyone's all right, maybe make sure the thermometer or the thermostat, in the house is set appropriately, the fencing is good, and then they come back again later at 7. And then we offer what are called 24s, which is essentially, I should probably change that to some sort of different name, but essentially a 24 is day and night care. The earliest that 24 start is 8 a.m. And 24s are for those clients that have like maybe a little separation anxiety from their pet, or
more points to touch
base.
Yeah,
they want someone there more often, or maybe the pet has separation anxiety, or maybe the pet's a senior, they have certain meds, that kind of thing. We even have some of our special needs pets doing 24s. And so included with 24s, because it is, about 18 hours straight of care is what 18 to 20 hours of care is what the owner gets. We do have to have a break built into that. So our sitters do have to leave the client's home for about 4 to 6 hours to get a break in, because they are entitled to that break. So, and usually my sitters will break it up. They know not to take their break during any sort of pet care related thing. Fluffy eats at 8.
When everyone's taking a nap.
Yeah, go while everyone's taking a nap. And so for me personally, I like to take my break from like 10 to 2, and then maybe later on go out for dinner and come back.
Yeah.
But so that's how the 24s work. And then of course there's dog walking, and then we have like our added on services. Like I make chunky blankets for pets. I also make dog treats. Yeah. So it's fun. We have a lot of fun with the services.
Like a whole care package.
I know.
The Barnhouse care package. I love that.
It's fun. I mean, there's even times where like I'll use my break to go and like get like pup cups for the pets, and I'll come back and I'm like, here,
Yeah.
So it can be fun.
Now, do you set up like a form of agreement with your clients, like obviously to go through all of the steps and all of the like the pre-visit visits? I forget what you call them, but all of that to do it like a one-time situation. Like I would assume that's probably not
kind of like a contract.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have like, hey, we're going to be your pet sitter moving forward. If something changes, you let us know. But otherwise, you have, at least they're long term and they're going to stick around, whether they take a trip once a month or, once a week or something.
Yes. So we do have a client service agreement. In that agreement, it goes over like, here are the different services we offer. Here's what they are. And in there, we also talk about like vaccines. We do ask for pets to be vaccinated. And then we also go into like behaviors that are accepted, what can get you dismissed if your pet is acting out of control, that kind of thing. Because we still value safety. As much as I love pets, we will not keep a aggressive pet as a client, unfortunately.
So you have the right to cancel.
So
you guys from that situation at any point.
Yeah, so those unfavorable nuances are in there that clients can read over, as well as like our holiday fees, cancellation policy, that kind of thing. So that's all in our client service agreement. And then I have like side documents that I have them signed that might get lost in this long client service agreement. One of them being like a document for permission to take pictures of your pets, because even though they're pets, we still need permission.
I love how thorough you are.
I know, I'm like thinking of all these different things. And then we also have like a breakdown of paperwork for dog walking services. We don't have all of our clients sign that just because some clients are like, no, my dog is like a huge backyard, so it doesn't make sense to give them paperwork if we know they're not going to use that service. So we have separate dog walking paperwork, and then I have separate farm paperwork as well as a document that is our zero tolerance policy for dishonesty. So if we go to a client's home and they're verbatim up and down have said that their dog has no bite history, they've never bitten anybody, but we're there and on day one we get bit, we know that that was not true.
Yeah.
So that policy basically says that for our relationship to work, we need to be honest on both sides.
Love it. That's perfect. So I can't believe it's almost an hour. Like, I swear we could go and talk about so many other things. But as we wrap up here, so I just want to make sure everyone knows, like, website's been scrolling across the bottom at any point in time. So if you want to inquire about her services for any of your animals, definitely reach out. If you have any comments, put them in the comments, or any questions, put them in the comments, and we'll monitor that and make sure to answer any questions that anyone has. So kind of like any words of wisdom, something that you have learned from doing this business, that you wish more pet owners would know. Any words of wisdom to like leave the audience with?
Absolutely. Your pet is always going to be your baby, and whatever routine you set forward should always be followed, no matter if it's us at Barnhouse or by somebody else. And don't let anyone dissuade you away from the routine that you have established for your pet. It works for them and it makes their lives go round. But keep in mind, though, that whenever you are introducing someone new to your home, and especially if you're going away for a while, pets are like teenagers. They could definitely be like that straight A honor roll kid that has all these clubs and activities and goes to church and has all these friends, and you've never had to worry about them. But when mom and dad leave for too long, sometimes that teenager likes to see what kind of party they can throw. And pets are the same way. So don't ever think that you might have fully trained out a behavior, because sometimes when they're missing mama and daddy, that behavior pops right back out.
Yes. Oh, that's so smart. And it's so true. And I love the analogy because they are really like kids.
They are. They can be toddlers, I swear.
Yeah. Well, even now it's funny because my friend, they surprised their father-in-law with a golden puppy.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. And then he had like a road trip planned ahead of time. So he didn't want to take the puppy with him, obviously. He was like driving from Colorado to Florida. But so like we were kind of taking turns like watching the puppy. And I swear it was like, I have not had many dogs in my life. Like my parents always had like one, and so there's some of the things that I never really paid attention to because like they were kind of handling more. But I was like, it's such like a toddler. Like every 5 seconds, I was like, "What's in your mouth? What are you eating?" Like what are you
you're like
into?
shoving your hand in their mouth. Like, oh my god, I've done a few dog walks where I'm like, "Give me this dry burrito that you found."
Right? Like, how did you even find it?
You're like, I didn't see it here. But yeah, your pets are. I mean, my girls, right? I have 2 dogs at home, and there's like a few behaviors where I'm like, okay, I know we worked on this for like 2 weeks straight. How did this behavior come back? And then I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, I was gone for 2 weeks on a pet sit and she was stressed that I wasn't here.
Yeah,
and,
jealous.
Yeah, and she's probably smelled other dogs, and that is why we are now back to ripping things apart. So we're going to go and retrain that behavior. So things happen. And
it is good to pay attention to like those changes. And it's nice too when you have like the set, like your company coming in and helping the same animals over time, because you get to watch those behaviors. So you could also alert the owner like, hey, I noticed
absolutely
Fluffy was acting differently. So my parents, she passed away last year, but they had a Pomeranian named Fluffy.
So sweet.
Yeah, she's so cute. But yeah, so like it's nice that you're able to like be kind of like an advocate for the animal too, to be like, hey, have you guys paid attention? Like, she's acting out, or he or she acting out, and why is that?
It's important to have a sitter that's going to be observant, especially if they've worked with your dog for a while. Because sometimes we are some of the first people that notice that there's a difference going on.
Right.
And even funny things happen. Like the owner took their dog to the vet the week before and they were like, oh, you know what? They've kind of been a jerk lately. They're still mad that they went to the vet. Like it happens. I mean, pets are some of the smartest, most empathetic creatures. And sometimes when the most important person in their lives is not present, even if they've built a good relationship with us, they would still always prefer their owners. So never ever think that just because you're not in the room that their behavior won't change, because they love you and they miss you and they will show it.
Yes. Oh gosh, perfect. Well, if I had any, group of animals, like I definitely have you watch them. I have a cat that I travel with, so she's with me at
so
all
precious.
times. Yeah. But I will definitely get your information out. If you guys know anyone that needs a great pet sitter, I mean, if anything, what we've talked about in the last a little over an hour here, like she definitely will love your animals as much as you do. So definitely reach out to her. Thank you so much for joining me, Deb. This was awesome.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm still going to think of like alpaca sitting.
Alpaca sitting, get away from the tarantulas.
Right. So yeah, she can help you from your spiders to your horses and everything in between. So definitely reach out if you guys have a need or know somebody. And thank you so much for joining us. And again, any questions that come up when you're watching this on a replay, like please add them in the comments and we'll keep an eye on that and get back to you guys. So I hope everyone has a fabulous weekend and we will see you next week.
Thank you.